Hello and welcome to the Galeblade News. This is a human interest story with a lady who started her company because her dad received approximately 3 pence per fleece for his Hebridean wool, and she thought, we must be able to do better than that, says Shepherd's daughter Rachel Atkinson. Rachel manufactures woolen products, but her firm is struggling. Wool's popularity has been in decline since the 1950s, and this year the coronavirus has added problems that businesses can ill afford. The global wool market closed in February. This has led to vast volumes of wool lying unsold in depots and has pushed prices down. Most farmers sell their fleeces through British Wool, formerly the British Wool Marketing Board. Some 14 million kilograms of wool are waiting to be shifted from its stores, while the average price per kilogram has nearly halved. It is now 32 pence compared to 60 pence the previous year. Rachel, who is based in Banbury in Oxfordshire, says farmers used to be able to pay a year's rent from the price of wool, but it's barely worth selling anymore. Some producers are even chucking it away. I'm wishing I had more space and more money to buy from the shepherds, who are really suffering with this, she says. Gerald Hughes runs a farm on Anglesey. He has put nearly 600 fleeces on the compost heap. Each farmer's costs are different, but in Gerald's case it doesn't make financial sense selling the wool this year. I'm not going to spend 30 pence on packing a fleece to get 24 pence back, he said. He is critical of British Wool and says he thinks the organisation has been over-reliant on the Chinese market. What the Wool Board should have been doing is looking for alternative markets for the last 20 years, he says. British Wool Chief Executive Joe Farron says the organisation is big enough and ugly enough to take criticism, but that a new strategy to market and sell the product is underway. Wool produced in the UK is used in products such as carpets, knitwear, soft furnishings and bedding. We are a convenient outlet for farmers' wool, he says, but if a farmer wants to put a supply chain together and develop their wool and bring their own product to market, they're open to do that. Andrea Meanwell, a shepherdess in the Hoghill Fells, an area that straddles the Lake District and the Yorkshire Dales, says she is storing her sheep's wool, hoping that next year demand will pick up. Like Gerald Hughes, she says the costs of selling the wool this year outweigh the benefits, particularly for remote farms where transportation costs are higher. Lots of people that I know are burning or composting or just leaving the wool to rot, she says. It's quite time consuming to innovate a product yourself. Most farmers just don't have the time to do that. Mr. Farron says British Wool is now working with branded manufacturers to create new consumer demand for the products. We're working hard to address the structural issues in the supply chain, he says. Mr. Farron is calling on farmers to continue working with British Wool during a terrible year. Please send the wool, let us collect it. If it's not brought in, it will fall out of use, he said. He told the BBC that British Wool has been turned down for the local government's coronavirus business interruption loan scheme on a technicality, but that it needed financial support to pay our producers this year for next year's wool. The reasons for the decline in the price of wool, while exacerbated by COVID-19, are many. Industry insiders point to the growth in synthetic fibres, fewer players in the industry's supply chain, Brexit uncertainty and the US-China trade war. But before the pandemic, Rachel Atkinson had been optimistic. It's incredibly sad as the British wool industry had been steadily gaining in value over the past few years. She says, Andrea Meanwell says that she hopes wool will become popular again with consumers. We're hearing so much now, more now about microplastics damaging the environment. She says so farmers have been hoping for a while that there'll be a return to people using wool. But at the moment it doesn't seem to have happened. So what do you think of this? I personally think we need to be supporting our farmers a lot more. They barely get much in terms of like their crops and their farming produce, their animals, because what happens is they actually get some of the least. Then the wholesalers get a bit more, and then the retailers seem to get the highest chunk with that proportion, which I think is just completely wrong. The retailers should get the least profits, and actually the farmers need to be getting a lot more support. Many of them have to rely on secondary incomes through having like B&Bs, having those on site, having farming tours, or kind of selling in their own like farm shops just to kind of break even or to make any form of living. It's not a great way of dealing with it. So we need to be supporting them more. That's all I'm saying. Whatever you think, leave your comments down below. Like the video if you enjoyed it, and don't forget to subscribe.